So, YouTube took down my AI. I think it was a video. I might have made a video. I don't really know. But I guess they didn't like it. What I've realized, well, with all of the people on Facebook and on YouTube, I'm nowhere else but Facebook and YouTube. With all of the people, what I'm seeing is that there are people who maybe it's their education or whatever, but they are compelled to make things complicated. That's their compulsion. Let me make things complicated. And I'm not that kind of person. So when people want to make things that are not rocket science into rocket science, a lot of people do that for their jobs. And it was kind of like this is how I see it. When I was in assisted living, there was a fellow who worked at Whirlpool, and he got his daughter on at Whirlpool, and he taught her how to pick on people, and then like to observe, and find something to take to the person up the ladder to say, hey, this is going on over there, and it really needs to be managed. And so that's how she moved up the ladder at Whirlpool. Whirlpool's a big company. And what happened is I was being their caregiver, and I found her. I came around a corner and found her criticizing me to my coworker who had more seniority than I had, but she wasn't my boss, but she had more seniority. And what she was saying was not true. It was not true. And it upset me. It upset me that she was saying that about me. I overheard her saying it about me. And I had come down to ask a question downstairs. Her parents were upstairs in a room, and I'd come down to ask a question about something, and I just thought, you know what? Never mind. I'm gonna go back. The parents were lucid. They had their full mental bearings about them, and so anyway. But I was upset, and I was helping the father, and I told him, I said, we can do this, but I just want you to know you can wait to do this because I'm really upset right now. So it's up to you. And he asked, why are you upset? And I told him, I said, your daughter is downstairs bad mouthing. I was one of their favorites. Because when I was caring for them, they could tell me the way they wanted things done, and I would listen to them. I would follow their instructions. I never said, no, I'm doing it this way, or ignored them and whatever. Anyway, I said, I told him, I said, your daughter's downstairs bad-mouthing me to my coworker, not even to the managers. And he said, you know what? That's my fault. That's the way I taught her. I taught her to be that way, and I see now it's backfiring on me. And that was true. So anyway, it was not a good quality, but that's how she was about making mountains out of molehills. And a lot of people do that because it helps them to feel important, and especially in a big corporation, and it helps them to give managers something to do too. So anyway, that's my take on a lot of people who are talking about things that they really don't have experience in, but they think that their education trumps experience. And what is that saying about don't argue with a stupid person because they're going to beat you up with experience? Right here. It's like, and they don't have respect for experience. So I suppose for the past 22 years, nobody has been really listening to me because, well, for one thing, my presentation was pretty poor because I was being driven hysterical. That's true. And there was a huge learning curve. I've now become pretty much a professional psychoanalyst. So, so yeah. But still, I see people who are wanting to make mountains out of molehills. And I can only think, that's not for me. That's not for me. I may not know how to do the research, but I know how to read it. I may not know all of the science behind it, but I can read the supportive words, look up the science, and then make my decisions or create my questions from that point. But I don't think God made things that complicated. I just don't. I don't think God is that complicated. He made us masterfully, but he did not make us to lead complicated lives. So, for me, there's no benefit in making things complicated. I think about the song Simple Man, right, by Leonard Skinner. I'm a simple woman, and I've been insulted for it, and people don't like what I say, but I don't care. I don't care. And I never did care in all of my life until they started destroying my life with gossip and innuendo and, attacks on me. But now that the problem has become so apparent, it's not ignorable. I kind of feel like, I don't know. I said about Catherine Fitz, I said it must, I couldn't, I don't think I could do what she does by talking with all of the educated people about what's going down, because their stupidity disgusts me. Probably in the same way that my stupidity disgusts them. But my stupidity is based on experience, and their stupidity is based on a poor education. So it's to see how massively people are realizing how bad the health industry is and how massive it is, and how they still are stuck feeling like or thinking that these are the professionals who are going to help them. It's like, man, I know it's hard. I didn't want to believe they were doing that to me. You know, my mom didn't want to believe it either, and then my mom started saying, wow, these women are not your friends. I can see that now. Forrest Cumin said that to me. This is not your friend right here, talking about my neighbor. He even told her. So for me, there were so many people validating it that I couldn't ignore it, but I still didn't want to believe it. I still didn't want to accept that they were actually destroying controlling everything. And I feel like I was full on a practice. Look at Elvis with his research, right? And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm positive I'm not the only one he has done this to. On the Jerk blog, a guy was saying that a professor peer said that they had invited him to their daughter's engagement party. And at the party, Elvis met the daughter, convinced the daughter that the guy she was going to marry was not good enough for her, and that he loved her, and she ended up breaking off the engagement. And as soon as she did, he dumped her like a hot potato. Those were the kind of stories that were being reported about Elvis on the Jerk blog. That he got an attorney to make it get taken down, and threatened to sue me. And everybody else was posting anonymously. So I got a letter from the attorney threatening to sue me, and the letter was written to me, and it CC'd. There was a CC notes on the bottom of the letter to all the other people who had been talking on the Jerk blog. So Elvis knew, even though those people were speaking anonymously, he obviously knew who they were. I wasn't speaking anonymously. I never have, really. So, like if YouTube takes down my video, they're taking down me, my video, not some random strange name, So I've never hidden that I was, B-Sprout. So, but it's all seeming to be getting consolidated. But yeah, and that letter that came to me from that attorney had all those names and addresses of those people listed. And I thought, I don't know who all those people are. And it had my name and my address and my phone number on the letter too. And I thought, I don't know who any of those people are, except Jelaine. I knew who Jelaine was because she was his business partner when he did what he did to me. But I didn't want all those people having my address. Anyway, I went nuts on the attorney. That was probably one of my first times when I literally went nuts on somebody. It was like, bring it on. Tell him. You tell good old Elvis. Bring it on. Anyway, I don't think he's done playing around. I don't think he's done. That's his life, It's what he does. So, conflict resolution by destroying one of the parties. Anyway, I'm just looking at how much is being told about the medical doctors, and I mean, it's pouring in. And I'm glad. I'm glad about it, but I still see so much deflection and so much ignorance that I just, I just can only say, you know what? A lot more people are going to lose their lives before this gets turned around. And a lot of them are asking for it because they won't let go of the system and their idea of the hierarchy. I really don't even think Robert Kennedy can. He thinks these doctors are all a bunch of good guys. You know what I mean? That's the hierarchy he's been living with his whole life. So anyway, I guess that's all I have to say, but I'm just blown away about how many people are talking about it and how many people are starting to write lengthy dialogues the way I have been, especially lately. I have been, because, and maybe I always have been, but I didn't have I was too traumatized to be cohesive, so now I'm pretty spot on. Thank God. Being hysterical and afraid all the time is not a fun thing to be. Not at all. So anyway, it's nice not to be afraid. I still have nightmares. I have been having horrible nightmares. But that just seems to be the way it is. So anyway, it seems like it's being more investigated now than it was before. So more than just tire kickers, but people who are serious. I mean, considering the reported numbers of patients that doctors have killed is 440,000 a year. That's a lot of families being affected. And I still think it's triple that number. It's just not reported. So it's covered up like what happened to me. But what happened to me is indisputable. It's never going to be undone. It's the one doing the most research on it has benefited. Whether he says or not on his blog that he's not in it, whatever it is that he's into, for the money. Bullshit. Bullshit. So there's nobody who's going to straighten this out for me. So they're just lucky that I'm not